Well, good afternoon and welcome to our broadcast at this hour. A number of key stories we're keeping an eye on at this hour, including the Kenyatta International Convention Center, where the Health Summit 2026 is currently ongoing, where President William Ruto has just concluded his speech. They have taken a short health break. When they come back, they will start with their plenary session. As and when we get those links, we'll be sharing them with you, including the major event that will be happening at KICC this evening. Currently on your screen, you can see the Director of Director John Lolkoloi is currently addressing the members of the Fourth Estate. Let's listen in to what the Director of EACC is currently telling the members of the Fourth Estate.
With funding from the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, EACC investigation established that Kenya shillings 1,569,000,000 was fraudulently disbursed from the National Treasury subsequently channeled to 23 private entities, 15 business names, and 8 companies for goods and services that were never supplied or rendered. The program, which was intended to facilitate small-scale farmers' access to affordable financing, was implemented between 2013 and 2024 and 2023-2024 financial years. The Commission investigations established that the program officials used false and forged documents to account for funds and opened an authorized KCB bank account in the name of Profit Program, through which Kenya shillings 175 million was received, laundered and embezzled, with substantial portion withdrawn in cash. Investigation established financial link between program officials and some of the private entities that received the funds in apparent contravention of the public financial management and accountability requirements. Upon conclusion of investigation, the Commission forwarded the inquiry file to the Director of Public Prosecution, who approved the prosecution of 20 public officials, companies, and company directors. The suspects face charges including unlawful acquisition of public property, abuse of office, money laundering, and acquisition of proceeds of crimes, as well as uttering false documents, among other offenses. The Commission today arrested the following 9 suspects: John Ngure Kabudha, Program Coordinator, Profit Program; Namuel Muturi Motanya, Head of Accounting Unit at the National Treasury; John Maina Murithi, Senior Accountant, National Treasury; Gladys Juliet Oroni, alias Gladys Juliet, proprietor of Mawindo Enterprises, Biggs Agencies, and Green Basil Agencies; Brian Kiprop Chepkarat, proprietor of El Conita Technologies; Ian Kwemoi Chepkarat, Director of 020 Investment Limited and VD Fisi Limited; Josephat Kamau Kamoshe, Director of Blue Dart Agencies Limited; James Omodo Ndai, proprietor of Ednas Agencies, Posep Technologies, and Steering Enterprises; Jimmy Carter Odoyo Osodo, proprietor of Kadnik Investments. The suspects are expected to be arraigned before the Milimani Law Courts on Wednesday, 19th August 2026. EACC hereby directs the following suspects to immediately present themselves at the EACC Integrity Center in Nairobi or the nearest EACC offices for processing. So these are the persons who are being directed to appear, as they were not arrested in today's morning operation. So the first one is Billy Otieno Obanga, alias Billy Obanga, Program Accountant, Profit Program; Auma Rita Otieno, proprietor of Rita Shell Enterprises; Paul Mukasiali Shihalo, proprietor of Kemula Agencies and Sheila Supplies; Susan Wangare Gatiaka, proprietor of Maxwell Supplies and Greiber Distributors; Eric Otieno Achila, proprietor of Dangeserina Enterprises; Miriam Roselinda Obinda, Director of Landraps Kenya Limited; Frederick Nyate Obinda, Director of Landraps Kenya Limited; Brown Mujenga Agande, Director of Landraps Kenya Limited; Hilda Ndinda Ngava, Director of Kikwetu Holdings Limited; Charles Cheruiyot, Director of Kaplan Logistics Limited; Jacqueline Kagai Saisi, Director of Jarrod Agency Limited. In addition to the criminal proceedings, the Commission will pursue recovery and forfeiture of public funds and assets established to have been acquired through corrupt conduct and other unlawful means. The EACC remains committed to protecting public resources and ensure that persons responsible for loss or misappropriation of public funds are held accountable. That is the end of the statement. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. That is the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, just giving a status update following the arrest of 9 suspects as part of an investigation into the alleged fraud involving 1.57 billion shillings. The suspects are currently being held at the Integrity Center, where they are being questioned, of course, going through the process before their arraignment ahead of Wednesday. The person who is currently speaking to the members of the Fourth Estate, that is John Lolkoloi, the Director of the Ethics and Leadership at EACC. He has just affirmed that the 9 suspects are currently being held at the Integrity Center and they're being questioned ahead of their arraignment. That is earlier on in the morning when they're brought inside the Integrity Center for questioning in regards to the alleged fraud involving 1.57 billion shillings. Director Lolkoloi has also confirmed that they will be arraigned on Wednesday in a number of charges that have been leveled against them, including fraud. But also he has just informed members of the Fourth Estate that other suspects are still at large, some who have not been sought by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. They have been directed to appear at any of the integrity held offices across the country and all their bureaus if they're in a position. If not, of course, they'll be clearly stated that they will be going for them as this particular investigation is currently ongoing. Our very own Adan Ibrahim is following on that particular bit. As and when we get more details, we'll be informing you. In other news now, residents and young people in Kikuyu constituency, Kiambu County, have staged demonstrations storming bars which they allege are selling killer second-generation alcohol which lack proper inspections by relevant authorities. Following the death of a young man in the area who was allegedly last seen in one of the unauthorized bars, the agitated youth blocked Kikuyu-Dagoretti Road in an attempt to track down the rogue bar owners and the vendors. Kikuyu Police Station officer commanding, that is Mulwa, said that the suspect is under police custody after being arraigned in court. He further urged residents to collaborate with the police to curb the said vice.
Sasa sisi hapa we are not entertaining mambo ya pombe mbaya. Na hii pombe wanasiniki wanaingiza huku usiku kutoka upande ya nani ya Kawangware. So wakati tulipata information hiyo pombe hapa tukakuja tukapepa yote, mtu wote wako kotini. Tumeelewana? Lakini nashukuru sana venye sasa unatushika tushikane mkono mambo ya pombe mbaya tufanye nini? Kwa sababu Kikuyu sisi mambo ya pombe mbaya hatutaki.
Well, if you're just joining us this afternoon, we're keeping tabs on a number of stories making headlines at this hour, including the current events unfolding at the corridors of justice, where the High Court judge, that is Gregory Mutai, summoned the Deputy Inspector General of Police, that is Eliud Langat, as well as the Basic Education PS, that is John Ololtua, to appear before the court to explain the delayed enforcement of orders to transfer management of Gatoto Comprehensive School in Mukuru kwa Jenga back to the community. Our very own Ruth Wambo is following on that particular story. As and when we get the link, we'll be going there live. Elsewhere, Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education KUPPET officials in Kakamega County have opposed a proposal by the Teacher Service Commission TSC to promote 30,000 teachers. According to KUPPET, the teachers' employer has been allocated a sufficient budget to facilitate the promotion of at least 50,000 teachers. Speaking after meeting in Kakamega Town, Branch Secretary Johnston Wambuti further called upon TSC and the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to adopt a new criteria for promoting teachers. Meanwhile, junior secondary school teachers, Kakamega County Branch Secretary Kennedy Weaver has urged the government to give greater attention to the competency-based education by addressing funding challenges for implementation of some of the programs.
The money that was given to Teacher Service Commission from Treasury is 2 billion.
Yes.
And that money, 1 billion, they were promoting 15,000 teachers. So if they have been given that money, they were promoting 25,000 teachers. If they have been given 2 billion, it should be able to promote 50,000.
Back in our schools, where we need practicals, we don't have even laboratories in most of our schools, and you expect that the learners are exposed to what is necessary as far as learning is concerned.
Solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong.
Also, a campaign seeking to sensitize the youth, especially girls, about the triple threat of HIV and AIDS, teenage pregnancies and gender-based violence has been rolled out in Malindi, Kilifi County. The campaign, dubbed Take Two, will be spearheaded by the Kilifi County Health Department and a non-governmental organization, TICO. Kilifi County says the initiative will ensure girls are properly informed about the need to protect themselves against teenage pregnancies and irresponsible sexual behaviors, putting them at risk of HIV infection.
Hii kampeni inahusisha yale mambo ambayo tulianza miaka michache iliyopita, wakati tulisema kwamba nchi lazima iangalie mambo matatu ambayo ni triple threats. Moja ni teenage pregnancies, ingine ni SGBV na ingine ni mambo na maambukizi mapya ya virusi vya ugonjwa wa ukimwi.
Also, the management of Gatoto Integrated Community School in Mkuru kwa Ruben, Nairobi County, is yet to access the premises despite a court ruling that ordered that the institution be reverted back to the community. Now, attempts by the directors, led by Gideon Clay, to gain entry into the school were thwarted, and their lawyers, Collins Kirui, was attacked and injured by people allegedly hired to guard the institution. The management of the school is accusing local authorities of intimidation.
We were to resume the operations of Gatoto campus from today, but it has been sabotaged. There is barricaded roads that we cannot get access to. And I think the work of the police is to remove those barricaded roads and clear those roads.
Last week on Thursday, they claimed that we need an official handover. But now without the head teacher, who was to hand over the school to us. And I would say that we are so frustrated that court orders cannot be obeyed.
Ruiru Girls High School in Kiambu County is facing congestion challenges with dormitories holding twice the capacity of students. According to the principal, that is Sophie Waithera, one dormitory accommodates more than 100 learners instead of the recommended 50, presenting a challenge in logistics. The school's head spoke when area member of parliament, that is Simon Kingara, inspected the construction of a dormitory renovated through the National Government Constituency Development Fund NGCDF. The school is the only such public institution with boarding facilities in Ruiru sub-county.
Kwa wazazi tusaidiane kupatia watoto wetu masomo ya nidhamu, kwa sababu hata kama tumejenga jengo hili na mtu akuja amwaga petroli, bado tutakuwa na changamoto. Kwa hivyo nidhamu ni kitu ya maana sana.
Currently the capacity is 450. Although the quality assurance they had also said we are congested. So the Rogonaut dormitory has been occupied by 101 students, but they said that the capacity should be 50. So now that it has been expanded, it will be able to cater for 70 girls. So therefore, in total, we have 450 girls, those who are in boarding.
As I had informed you a little earlier on, at KICC, the Health Summit 2026 began. And of course, President William Ruto opened that particular day one of that day, 2 days event that will be held at KICC, where the president clearly stated that so far to date, 150 billion shillings have been used by Kenyans out of pocket to seek medical services. By the introduction of Social Health Authority, it has addressed some of these issues. Let's listen in to the president in his earlier speech.
Kenyans were spending an estimated 150 billion out of pocket every year on healthcare. KEMSA's order fill rate had fallen to roughly 40%. Medicines were often unavailable. Records remained paper-based. Claims moved very slowly, and facilities struggled for resources, while emergency care remained fragmented without a coordinated national response. We resolved to build that system from the bottom up, not to patch the old one, simply rename it or make another promise about it, but to fundamentally change it.
Well, of course, we're keeping tabs on that particular health summit. And of course, remember this evening, KBC will be airing live that particular town hall session that will be happening at KICC, that will be spearheaded by President William Ruto. In that particular function, he stated that they will address the hits and misses within the health sector, and they will address any concerns raised by Kenyans. Also, another function that is currently ongoing, want to take you live there right now. It is all to do with the counter-terrorism measures that are being instituted within the country. And as you can see on your screen, that is our very own Yusuf Farah. Yusuf, good afternoon. What more can you tell us?
Good afternoon, Hashim, and as you rightly put it, we're coming to you live from Westlands, where today we are attending the National Strategy for the Management of Returnees and Domestic Violent Extremists of the strategy that is from 2026 to 2030. Of course, this is just a gathering of policy holders, policymakers who will be having a 3-day event here to discuss how to counter violence, extremism, and of course we have stakeholders from the police, and this is convened by the National Counter-Terrorism Center. And right about now, Hashim, I will be joined by the head of disengagement at NCTC, that is Kenneth Maucha, to just talk to us about what will be the expected outcomes from this 3-day event. Good afternoon, sir. We're live on KBC. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Let's talk about this 3-day event and what are the expected outcomes from the people that are attending, and what will be the benefits of it?
Okay, at the moment, what we are dealing with here is a validation exercise where we have brought in different stakeholders, both from the state and non-state actors, who will be coming here to discuss a draft document, the National Strategy for the Management of Returnees and Domestic Violent Extremists. Basically, you know, there are people who get radicalized, get recruited into terrorism. Some of them even left the country and went to join theaters of terrorism in other countries. And because of the global counterterrorism efforts, most of these terrorist organizations have been degraded and have been scattered. So that one forces many of them to come back home. Others were disillusioned by those places where they went to join terrorism and changed their mind and came back. So you see, this brings a dilemma. How do you deal with these people? Some of them, of course, there's need for them to be investigated. Some of them will go through the criminal justice system. Others will go even to the prison itself Others will take other different pathways. Now, this one brings in our NCTC's approaches, which is both whole of government. We have different government departments, including probation, including prisons, including police. And then we also have the whole of society, where we have other non-state actors, like we have certain NGOs, we have the community-based organizations, religious leaders who help us in what we call the DDRR. That is disengagement, basically separating these people from the terror influence. Then there is the de-radicalization part of it, which involves these people who are radicalized having some kind of ideological reversal. And then there's the rehabilitation, and then there's the reintegration back to society. Now you see, these are very many things happening, and we need different sectors of the society and the state to deal with these people. So now comes now of urgency is to have a coordinated, systematized way in which these people can be managed. So with different actors. So this one calls for now for the document which are talking about, the national strategy. Now this national strategy, at the moment, we have reached the level where we have a draft. So now this draft is now being critiqued and being looked upon by all the stakeholders so that you can speak in one voice and be able to handle everything regarding this returning for terrorist fighters, the returnees basically, and the domestic ones around. So once this validation has gone in and we have managed to garner the necessary buy-in of all our stakeholders, we will now be in a position to refine the document and launch it so that it can guide our management of returnees and domestic violent extremists between now, for the next 5 years, between now and 2031.
You did mention state and non-state actors' involvement. How important is this partnership in ensuring that once the draft is finalized and ready for adoption and launch, it has incorporated everyone?
Okay, can I get the question again?
The importance of the partnership between state and non-state actors to ensure that once the draft policy has been validated for launch, everyone's input is incorporated.
Okay, this one now comes back to what terrorism is all about. Yes, many people only see the spectacular terror attacks, but behind it, there is that ideological underpinnings of terrorism. That one also, the pathways to radicalization. Now this brings a bigger problem, which cannot be dealt actually by the state alone. Yes, we have now to incorporate those approaches I've told you. There's first of all, the whole of government. Earlier on, we had, it was considered terrorism to be dealt with only by security forces of government. But you see, we also have to, as our understanding of terrorism continues, you realize we need to have other people being brought in. We talk about even immigration, even teachers, yeah? Then now, for instance, when we see radicalization happens in schools and colleges, those are places now we need to partner with these people in terms of creating awareness on everything regarding radicalization. And the same also happens now when these people have been radicalized and they've come back. We also need now, at that moment I'm still talking about all of government. But you see, our understanding since the last few years has been that this thing also need the whole of society. The private sector also, they are the biggest victims, and also they also have resources that can help in both fighting violent extremism and also dealing with returnees and other people. And the same thing also happens now with the other non-state actors. For instance, when you are talking about religious leaders, that's faith-based organizations. These are people who understand the ideological underpinnings regarding extremism. And they're the ones who we can now work with them to help in de-radicalization. Same thing with other non-state actors like even the media, in terms of pushing out the narratives and the counter-narratives regarding extremism and radicalization. The same thing, this basically what I can say is that terrorism and the underlying violent extremism is something which is so much into the society and is so big that it needs everybody's hand on deck.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. And of course, as the media will be there to support, and as you correctly put it, it is something that requires the whole of government approach and state and non-state actors, or a whole of society approach. Thank you very much. That was Kenneth, and as you've heard it, Hashim, from the horse's mouth, this requires a whole of government approach to ensure that terrorism is countered from the source all the way down. We'll have more of this in our subsequent bulletins, but right about now, let me take it back to the broadcasting house. Hashim.
Well, thank you so much. That is our very own Yusuf Farah, just engaging with the NCTC heads there. That is Kenneth, in terms of how the country is countering violent extremism. And we've just heard from that representation from NCTC that it will be a whole government approach with state and non-state actors being very crucial in addressing this particular concern. Our very own Farah will inform you in our subsequent bulletins. Also, to more news now, as the August holiday continues, parents are being urged to monitor their children's use of mobile devices as a way to ensure they stay on top of their studies. Speaking at a counselling session for secondary school students in Kibarani area in Kilifi County, education stakeholders noted that surveillance is paramount given that students are required to use phones in their studies through the competency-based education curriculum and can easily be distracted.
Matumizi ya simu si mabaya, lakini wanafunzi waelewe kiwango chao cha mwisho cha hayo matumizi ya simu. Wanapotumia hizi simu vibaya, inakuwa vibaya kwao. Lakini wanapotumia hizi simu kwa uzuri, kila kitu, hata chakula chenyewe ni kizuri, lakini unapokila cha kupita kiasi kinakuwa harmful kwa afya yako. Kwa hivyo mimi nawaulizia watoto wetu, hata kama tunawapatia nafasi ya kutumia hizi simu, lakini wazitumie kwa njia ambayo ni ya kisawa.
Mwanafunzi akifika huku huwa yuona amekuja kupumzika. Ile ukimwambia soma yuona kama wamuonea. Kwambia mama, kule nilikotoka nimesoma, acha nipumzike. Sasa tukifika mahali kama hapa, wakishashauriwa, halafu na ule ushauri wa mzazi nyumbani, afadhali, inatupatia afadhali kama wazazi.
Youth in Nyanyuki, Laikipia County are being challenged to embrace digital learning to protect themselves from online predators amidst a rapid shift towards digital literacy, which often places young people at risk of exploitation in the digital space. The calls came during the launch of a digital literacy hub targeting young people from informal settlements across the county to equip them with essential digital skills. Stakeholders at the event highlighted that technology is advancing rapidly and such skills will help the curious young learners to safely navigate the digital space and earn a living.
Wakiweza kuja pia, mavijana wenzetu pia wanapotelea huko kwa pool, drugs. So hii program imeweza kutushika, tunakuwa intact, tunafungua akili bado, na pia inatusaidia to brighten our future.
At the moment we have 30 students that we are training, and every cohort takes 3 months.
To enable them to get job opportunities through digital workspace, and again they'll also avoid exploitation from the people who want to take advantage of the youth who have no information about a computer.
Well, on that note, we're taking a short breather. We'll be back with more, including an interview, including what is happening across the country when it comes to politics, governance and intolerance. So don't go too far. We still have a lot lined up for you at this hour.
Don't worry. You were great. Really.
Come on, let's play.
Okay.
I'll also play.
Then I quit.
Then I quit.
What the heck is that? Talking about Yaya.
Oh.
Isn't she playing a game professionally?
What's going on with you and that CK Jin Yang?
What? What's going on?
Yesterday, the game of us three was leaked on the gaming farm. The whole 9 yards. Don't tell me you didn't see that.
Lights on, volume up. This is where stories come alive. From local drama that hits close to home.
Huyu ni nani? Alinivamia ikiwa na vijana wengine wawili. Toka nje. Hii nyumba yako.
Yote ni porojo. To international series everyone's talking about. Stories that pull you in. Characters you won't forget.
Stop complaining and just get out of here. Go now, go.
We turn up the volume with music that moves, showcases rising stars, and bring the beat straight to your living room. And when it's time to talk, we don't hold back.
How is everything going?
Real conversations, big personalities, the issues, the loves, the moment everyone's debating the next day. Every show, every night, different voices, one destination. This is television that feels alive, unpredictable, and missable.
The wait is over. KBC Eco Huduma Center, starting with Nairobi. KBC imekuwa rahisi. From digital guidance and signet services to booking of commercial adverts and documentaries. Visit our dedicated desks at Huduma Center GPO, Times Square, Makadara, Kibera, or Eastleigh. Tunakungoja hapo. Whether it's a casual announcement or a specialized media solution for your business, we are here to serve you. KBC at Huduma Centers, moving closer to you. Your station, your service.
Well, welcome back. Now we're entering our interview portion for this particular afternoon. We're focusing on politics, governance and intolerance, following especially what we witnessed over the weekend in Homa Bay County and in Nakuru County during the Linda Mwananchi campaign rallies, as well as DCP leader Rigathi Gachagwa's convoy and other litany of issues that have dogged the country when it comes to political intolerance in the country. Now, we have representation from the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. We also have other key guests who can contribute to this particular conversation. Let me start with the farthest end. That is our very own director, Kilian Nyambu, the Director of Public Outreach and Engagement at NCIC. Director, good afternoon and thank you for making time for us.
Thank you. I feel pleased also to participate in this kind of engagement.
Thank you so much, Director, and karibu sana. Next to the Director, we do have Professor Wine Mutuma. He is the Vice Chair of the Institute of Certified Secretaries. Professor, karibu sana.
Asante sana. Very glad to be here.
Thank you so much. Also, finally, we have Steve Ngari, a governance and policy expert. Thank you, Steve.
Asante sana, and I am privileged to be here to talk to Kenyans and share on the topic of the day.
And directly, let's head over to the NCIC Director. Bona Director, NCIC issued a very strong-worded statement cautioning political class and the organizers of such rallies in terms of what you witnessed on Sunday and on Saturday. Should we be worried as a country?
Thank you. First, let us understand, we do appreciate that by very nature, politics is divisive. But of course, that divisive nature of politics does not warrant the kind of intolerance, the level of intolerance which we are realizing as a country. It's not healthy, it's not hygienic, it's not good for this country. And as such, we have responsibility to call into order any political actor, political leader, political player to ensure that they can be able to play within the rules. And as such, for us, this is a matter of national concern, matters of concern to all Kenyans about how we are conducting our politics, particularly now as we are approaching next year's general election.
Yes. And with that in mind, Professor, we're just barely over 360 days away from that particular poll itself. With the kind of intolerance we're witnessing in the country, the same question I've asked the Director, should we be worried as Kenyans?
Yes, most certainly. In governance, we say that the greatest predictor to the future is the past and the present. So if you are doing something today and it goes unchecked, you can be certain that it's going to be amplified tomorrow. I mean, in short, that's what one would say from a governance perspective. And so we need to be starting to reflect on two key issues. The gap between law and practice, that's a first. Why doesn't our law kick into play when we need it most? Second, we need to be thinking about leadership as envisaged in the Constitution and leadership as we see it on the ground. So there's a huge gap. We call that the culture gap. The culture is basically anything that's unwritten. So you have law, policy, beautiful systems, great structures, but then, this is the tricky part, what happens when we actually see all of that in reality? And that's where the gap is.
Finally, Steve, in terms of the gaps that have been addressed here by Professor and the Director talking about the situation we've witnessed in the country, in terms of our governance structure, is there something that is lacking? You hear from the Prof, there is a huge gap when it comes to the law and its implementation. There is that particular cracks in the matter. So in terms of addressing those issues so that we do not witness what we witnessed on Friday all the way to Sunday, what can be addressed now?
I think we are in a we are at crossroads as a country, and I would advise, or I would say, the people that should take responsibility or action should be called to account. We can't have a country that is led by goons or people who are lawless gangs of people. We need to ask the relevant authorities to be bold enough. What I think is there are people who have turned out as sacred cows. And I think the repercussions of politics, or what would happen, the way people spin stories around when actions has been taken against them, is what people are afraid to do. And there's something from the political side that we need to emulate. Sometimes we are faced by hard decisions, but they are the correct decisions to make. But most of the people want to take the easy route. The easy route is we have been having like a whole 2 years roller coaster of insults, of hate speech, of incitement. But because the people involved are high-ranking, or they are high-ranking in the society, and the people who are supposed to take action rather are afraid of political consequences. I think there has been laxity. And it is a high time the authorities step in and do what they must do. Because people, if they are not, these people, they are not stopped. We can be here all day and say, what is it that should be done? But if somebody goes out there and is organizing guns, who is responsible? Is it NCIC? Is it the National Police Service? And if they are not acting, why are they afraid to act? So that as citizenry, and I can tell you why are they afraid. During the Gen Z protest, we have come a long way, and everybody and the citizens fought government, and they told them, you cannot be arresting our children, you cannot be aggressive with these people, you need to be tolerant to them. The result of that is now everybody is doing what they must do. And I remember the president saying, now it's a good time to have a conversation about these goons, about the lawlessness that is setting in. So that if your child is caught on the wrong side of the law, you will not come back and say, for example, police officers were killed, or they were attacked, or they were cornered. How are they supposed to defend themselves? With stones and machetes? Not really. They have guns, they have weapons that can hurt. So it is us as parents and citizens to say, how do we want to organize ourselves around what is happening currently. But it is a sad state of affairs, and the responsible people must step in and do the right thing.
And Director, you can also chime in into that conversation. It was just recently at the NCIC headquarters, you had the chair there, you had the DCI boss, that is Amin Mohammed, even the IBC chair himself, Erastus Ethekon, were there. Of course, issuing a stern warning to not only the political class and organizers of such things. In terms of the progress, Yesterday, you issued another summon for the Homa Bay Member of Parliament Township, that is Honorable Peter Kaluma. In terms of the progress, just give a progress update to the citizenry. Where are we in addressing such incidences, and how many cases have you recorded so far in this year alone?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hashim. Now, one of the things which we must be able to clarify from the onset is that in whatever we do, we must be guided by the confines of the law. And as such, from the Commission, we are guided by the procedures and processes which have been set by the very act which created the institution. So with regard to those individuals who deemed to have committed offense, usually the requirement is in collaborations with other institutions. And of course, as I'm glad that you have mentioned that we are focusing on the multi-agency. Usually the very, very fact is to be able to gather the prerequisite evidences which meet the threshold. So far from the Commission, we have around approximately 40 in number individuals whose case is at various stages. Others are at the investigative stages, others files have been forwarded to the DPP, and a few others who are already in court to address the various matters. Yes.
And in terms of addressing that particular incident, what are you looking, because the Member of Parliament for Homa Bay will be coming to your headquarters tomorrow.
Tomorrow, absolutely.
In terms of what you're looking at, differentiate between hate speech, abusive language, and other issues that have been, or intimidation. Those three, what does NCIC deal with?
Thank you. In the entire quagmire of the different offenses related to the breach of peace, of course, starting with, we have got the normal, what we normally call the insults, which apparently they fall outside the ambit of the National Cohesion Integration Commission, even though we realize that if they exceed, such individuals needs to be cautioned. So in such a case, there are quite a number of leaders whom the Commission has already sent to them the cessation notices. What are cessation notices? Cessation notices are the instruments provided to the Commissions by the NCIC Act to caution individuals who probably their utterances are bordering creating some little bit of animosity among the different cities of the country. And as such, whenever we have had this, the match which as a commission can be able to do is to be able to caution them through the instrument which we call cessation notice. However, legally speaking now, insults and abuses are dealt with under what we can call civil court, civil jurisdictions of offenses, where the persons offended is by law required to sue the other person. So what we normally do is just to be able to bring into order to people who are uttering such a kind of remarks. Then you have clearly mentioned the other occasions which usually has a potential to breach peace, but it's not within the NCIC Act, is the incitements, which again, they're handled by the penal code, of which now we expect when a political leader arises to incite our citizens against each other, then the DCI, together with the National Police, are supposed to jump in and take the necessary. So let's come back to the issue about hate speech. What is this hate speech? Because again, those are some of the issues which bring confusion to the public and many times make people feel that maybe NCIC is doing nothing. From the act which created the institutions, hate speech is being defined as utterances, words, writings, whatever, whose intentions is meant to cause ethnic disharmony. Meaning that if I belong to tribe X and I vilify tribe Y, that fully, by the act, qualifies to be hate speech. And once that happens, usually the commission has got two responsibilities in such a situation. The first responsibility under the act is to be able to investigate. And that's why you see investigation is a process, and some of these cases which you have mentioned, like even the one which we have invited Mheshimiwa tomorrow, will be following under that level of the process. Then the second is now to recommend prosecution, because constitutionally it is the Director of Public Prosecutions who have been mandated by law, by the constitutions, to effect those prosecutions. In scenario where we forward our file, the DPP has got 3 options.
Okay.
The first option is to agree with us that indeed whatever you have forwarded to us meet the threshold, and now he can proceed and charge.
Okay.
Secondly, he can be able to return back and tell us there are gaps here, fill it before you return the file, or he can ultimately just decide that as far as he's concerned, there's no offense in such a case. So those are the procedures and processes which are followed within the ambit of the rule of law.
Okay. With that in mind, Professor, you've just heard the distinction there from the director. In terms of how will this impact, because you clearly stated earlier on there should be a concern in the country over this political intolerance we're witnessing right now. So what will be the impact of such events ahead of the polls?
Remember, Hashim, what I said earlier, that the greatest predictor to future behavior is what has happened in the past and what is happening in the present. So we have a history, and we've seen what that history does when it builds up. So it's not like 2007 is gone off the parameters. We still remember what happened. We had several other boiling points before you hit 2007, 92, Rift Valley, 97, Likoni, splinters and splatters right through the 2000s. And of course, the big thing happened in 2007 and 8. So the one thing that we can tell is this unchecked leads to something bigger. But there's also something else that comes under our radar. So we're talking about checking. So we tend to focus very much on the question of sanctions. So we're looking at short-term problems. You know, in the people of conflict, they talk about a root cause analysis. The one thing we don't ask, which is fundamental for our country, is the question about the roots and not the branches. So this is something that we have to tackle. We forget that we have a project of building a country. That's fundamental. What they call the nation building project, the question of the identity of the nation. A lot of people have done statistics, and what is really worrying about where we are in Kenya is the polarization through ethnicity and other forms. It's probably being seen now here more than we ever had anticipated in the past. What does that mean in the world of social media, misinformation, fake news? It means that people are increasingly moving into what you call small pockets and bubbles, echo chambers, where you are associated with your own. You get feedback messages that support and reaffirm what you think. They continue to create distance between two groups of people, and that distance sets us up for the worst, which is conflict in the future. That is our fundamental fear. We must return back to the problem at root, which is the question of our identity and the bigger project of building a country. That's my honest perspective.
And Steve, in your own opinion, is this not a test to democracy? Because we're saying if candidate A comes here, we'll listen to whatever the candidate is saying. Candidate B comes as well, we'll listen to what they are telling us, and then they can leave. What happened to that?
Kenya has become quite a growing democracy, and would say compared to our friends and our neighbors in the East African community, we are quite ahead. But I'm afraid to say that what you're seeing today is going to now turn out to be a big monster. We have had political players going to places and saying, in this region, only so and so or people from this party will speak. We've seen people trying to segment regions for themselves, and actually making it very difficult for somebody with a different opinion or different political affiliation to even air their views. And I think if we trace back, I love what the professor said, what is the root cause? We need to go back a bit and ask ourselves, when did we start getting polarized this much as a country? You know, when you allow citizens, because the space is there, democracy allows, and when you allow young people with a different political opinion to insult the person of the president, for example, and we have allowed everybody to call him names, and it has become like acceptable, then we move along. Then somebody goes along the way, they disagree with the deputy president. They now again start using insult or derogatory words against them. What happens is these people come from somewhere. For example, you've had conversations about the mountain and people splitting east and west. Why is that happening? The east is saying, okay, our son is being insulted. But now, what is the root cause of that division? It is one person who was allowed by either the authorities or people who should have taken action, or even us as a citizenry, to be on to be a loose cannon, to insult everybody, to malign everybody, and now people are going back to their own. For example, the president has where he comes from. Are they happy when some people insult him and call him names? Definitely, even if somebody from Rift Valley had a different opinion, they will say, but how will they see me differently if they can't see the president differently? So we need to go back to our values as a country. And I like what former the Prime Minister and the late Raila Amolo Odinga was saying. At one point he said, we need a national conclave. We need a conversation that begins from the grassroots and ask ourselves, what are our national values? What are our social values? What must we accept as a country and what must we not accept? Because today, it is Linda Mwananchi. Going to places, you hear there are confrontations. And the most unfortunate thing is, all of us are running with a narrative of one person. You may be surprised to learn, maybe it is not even Honorable Kaluma who had planned to even repass those people more. Maybe Linda Mwananchi had planned a bigger set of goons. So we need a conversation and we need some level of honesty in the engagement and ask ourselves, when did these goons start? Who started? Why did we allow it to come this far? And is it for the common good? And once all of us agree as a country that this is not the right thing to do, now we must call to action that the relevant authorities must step in. Let me even break it down, because I don't want to make it so corporate or so, bureaucratic. Look at it this way. If you have a head of a family, who as a teenager, maybe a father, you don't like your father as much, do we allow children to insult their father? That the normal conversation is no, because this is a teenage, you will grow, you realize probably the father was not as bad as after all. So why do we allow the whole country, because we have a democratic space, to insult the president, or to insult the presidency, or to insult the opposition? So we must, as a citizen, not forget our political affiliation, because again, you are saying we have a country. We have lives to run, we have jobs to do, we have businesses to run, we have families to take care of. We do not have another country. So if we let the politicians, whether in the opposition, to now be the one to dictate when we will have peace and when we will not have peace, the bigger chunk of people who are the citizens are the ones who are going to lose. Because politicians will go for everything at any cost. What about us? So somebody, and that person must be us, the citizens, must say no to pluralization, must say no to insults. As the NCIC deals with the legal frameworks, what is in their mandate, what is not in their mandate, then we must say, as a citizen, wewe kuja, uza sera, allow the other person to come, talk to us, so that we as citizens will make a decision on who is best to represent us.
Okay. And now we're taking a short commercial break. Gentlemen, stay with us. And of course, the conversation can also continue on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 and at Abdiaziz Hashim 2. Don't go too far. This conversation continues after this short break.
Skiza, Mandy amenituma ni bring some sense into that head of yours.
Tupatane kotini.
Ameninyonga karibu aniue.
Halo ofisa. Naomba mfanye patrol area hii. Wacha nitajaribu kumtafuta Mandy nimpigie simu.
Umeogopa kurogwa?
Siku ngapi? 2. Shelo kwa kuja hapa kunichota.
Hii shamba la kanisa liko kwa jina lako binafsi.
Ndugu Muli hapa hata alikuwa amepitia.
Mnazungumzia shamba yangu na huyu kwa nini? Why?
By the way, unajua si vigumu pia kupotea.
Mimi labda unipige risasi Muli.
Unadhani ni huyu?
Alishaonja pesa hizi. So hakuna pesa tamu kushinda hiyo.
Pia mimi ulinirecord.
Kwani unaonaje?
Kama ndio tabia, sasa nani atakutrust na information?
Unajua wewe na Muli ni kitu kimoja.
Sasa unaweza kupokea stesheni ya KBC Eastern Service kwa njia iliyomurwa baada ya KBC kuboresha na kuwekeza mitambo mipya ya kisasa ya kupeperusha matangazo. Pata matangazo kwa lugha ya Burji kila siku kuanzia saa 11 asubuhi hadi saa 4 asubuhi. Rendile Service itakuwa hewani kuanzia saa 4 asubuhi hadi saa 9 jioni. Kisha matangazo kupitia lugha ya Kiborana itachukua usukani kuanzia saa 9 hadi saa 2 usiku. Kutufungia jamvi ni Turukana Service watakaopeperusha matangazo yao kuanzia saa 2 usiku hadi saa 6 usiku. KBC Eastern Service inapatikana Lodwar na maeneo yaliyo karibu kupitia 98.3 FM. Na kwa wasikilizaji wa Burji, Rendile na Borana waliomo Marsabit na maeneo jirani, KBC Eastern Service inapatikana kwa mita bendi 98.7 FM.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Our conversation continues. It is all about politics, governance and intolerance. And in this particular final leg of our conversation, we want to enter into that particular phase and look for the solutions to address some of the man of these things that are ongoing within the country, despite the NCIC, the DCI investigating these particular matters. But at the root cause, as my guest earlier on clearly stated, what are some of those root causes that needs to be nipped in the bud to ensure that this conversation is never heard of as we are heading over to the 2027 general election. And taking you to the director now. Director, talk to us about cohesion, because that is the full mandate of NCIC. Does whatever happening in the political scenes pose a danger to the cohesiveness of this country?
I think absolutely. But let's also agree on one thing, that in history of every country, we have got our low moments and high moments. It's unfortunate we are almost sinking to the low moments. But of course, it takes a decision of a nation, of a people, to make a choice between good and bad, between evil and what is not evil. And I think as Kenyans also, it is our responsibility also to start becoming proactive. How? The question here is, when we get annoyed when we see the political class misbehaving, do we cheer them up? We have lived, I think we are reaching at a level where we must be honest with ourselves. That if the leader within my formation misbehaves, I can be able to have the courage of telling them, yes, we are in the same political formations, but on this one, you are wrong. That is the level. We appreciate that in some engagements, local engagements where we have had conversation with the Kenyans, and we have seen in some quarters, people can be able to arise and stand up and be able to tell that political character who is practicing politics of division that kindly, this is not the forum, please stop up. And this is the conversation what we need to start encouraging. That we can be able to cherish our national values, values of patriotism, values of inclusivity, values of transparency, and so on and so forth. So that we don't cheer bad manners because it's being said by somebody who is in my formation. No. We can be able to call into order leaders from both sides of the divides. That here and here and here, you are right, but here and here, we disagree with you. And this is a critical call on Kenyans. Who are the voters? Why should you put into office a leader whose conduct is questionable? Whether they provide money, whether they provide other goodies, it is time for us as Kenyans to be able to speak loudly. And the best thing is to speak loudly is to ensure that come the time when we are supposed to make a decision, we say no to poor politics. We say no to leaders who incite. We say no to leaders who insult others, and put into place leadership which will respect the rule of law. Yes.
And Prof, earlier on we were talking about the morals of this country. As a country, would you say our morals are decaying with the scenes that we are witnessing?
Hashim, allow me just to segue on what has just been said. Because you talked about cohesion, and cohesion has everything to do with value systems. Yeah? So you have to cohese over something. You can't, a football team coheses around one goal. They have brands and all of that. A family does the same thing. And it ties with what you're saying about your moral state. So our values must be looked at in terms of what we morally say, this is us, this is our Article 10, these are the clothes we wear, this is our brand. Now there's a problem there because there has been such a divergence between the paper and the person. That's what we say. In terms of governance, we talk about the practice and then the policy. The bigger question, other than identifying that divergence, is to ask how to rectify it. That's actually the bigger question. So if our values, and my short answer to what you've asked is, yes, they have degenerated for various reasons. But then, how do you self-correct? Now, he talked about, my brother, Killian, spoke about this issue of leadership. Values are set, unfortunately, not from a bottoms-up perspective. They are set from a top-down perspective. The father and the mother will give cues in the home. The children will follow it. The teacher will give cues in the classroom. It has always been like that from the beginning to the end. So if you look at American politics, what it has become, it has something to do with the person at the top and what has been happening in different places. The kind of insults, what you were saying earlier offline, that very soon, when you degenerate into a culture of insults, it must be coming from somewhere. And if you look at where that barometer is, it comes from the top. Now, where I take a different exception is who we call a leader. Because that doesn't mean the average citizen is powerless. Because we have seen when different moments in time, the Arab Spring, where a very ordinary kawaida person can cause ripples that affect the entire system. You remember Tunisia? Yes. Where this guy set himself ablaze and everything happened. We have seen a woman in this place, this land of ours, a very glorified woman, great hero, Wangari Maathai. Completely no power on the state, at least not in office, but able to do something that engineers a completely different face. My answer to that question is we must find those people. And those people might be in the media, they might be in the church, and I think it's really sad that the church has been operating the way it is. It gives a lot of platforms to a lot of terrible rhetoric. It's coming actually from the pulpit. Now again, in our off chat, one of the things that is most admirable of our sister colleagues in the Islamic faith is that they won't even tolerate that kind of platform to be administered through the mosque. Maybe the church needs to have a serious reflection. Why are these messages coming from the pulpit, which is meant to be holy, sacred, and the bastion of value systems? So if the moral high ground is converted to a moral low ground, what then becomes of the rest of the country?
Okay, maybe finally we finish with Steve because we're running out of time. Steve, you can also give your comments into that, but also talk to us about the decency among our political class.
I think I'll be very fast and call a spade a spade. We must first respect institutions and offices and office bearers, because we will have one president at a time, one deputy president at a time, even one Hashim at a time. So if today, by God's grace, it is Hashim at this desk, I must first respect that, and I respect the office that you hold. So that now we do not create a country where today we have allowed everybody to call the president Kasongo, then we have another president, another day we call them another name. We cannot be a country of name calling. We must condemn with the strongest terms possible where our leaders, and we know it is very easy to blame government, but it's also important to call a spade and say, where did we start going wrong? It is the opposition, or the branded opposition that started the name calling, that is dividing this country because probably they want to take in power. We must call them to order and tell them it is okay. For example, Rigathi Gachagua can talk about his policies without insulting the deputy president. The deputy president is a professor of law, is an office holder, is not soprano. And we will tell him on the face, you cannot insult a person in the office of the deputy president. Then everybody follows cue. You cannot insult the president. You may not agree with Dr. William Ruto and whatever he is doing, but you cannot every place call him, oh, he's a thief, oh, he's a kasongo. What are we talking? What are we telling our children? You know, me, I actually cry for our generation. We must think about the next generation. It must not be us alone. What are we telling our children? Is it okay when you go to school and you don't agree with the principal, then you call him a name, or you disobey them in a way that you're almost running down the country? So my crystal ball is telling me that all of us have a responsibility, but the biggest responsibility lies with us as citizens, and we must tell the people dividing this country to stop it. Number two, we must tell the authorities, the police, do the right thing. It may be difficult, but do it. And I must also talk to my brother in the NCIC. Please, begin from where the problem started. Call Rigathi Gachagua to answer questions. Let the country see NCIC calling Rigathi Gachagua. Let them see, let the country see NCIC calling the opposition leaders who are polarizing this country. Then everybody will know NCIC is serious without what they are doing. Because you cannot just wait a programmed person to do something, then you call them because they know they are a bit submissive. But what you will not call the top leaders of the opposition. We have a country, we have children, we have a future, and we cannot all subject it to the whims and to the wishes of people who don't love this country. And finally, when we are called to a national conversation or national, things of national importance, like the other day the president called, a conversation on the Beyond 2030. The opposition refused to attend. So we cannot have a country where people love positions more than their future. So we have a country to love, we are brothers and sisters, politics will come and go.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you, gentlemen. I know I've kept you here for a long time. Thank you for making time for us, and thank you for making time for us this morning till the afternoon. That is Stephen Gary, who just concluded his remarks, a governance and policy expert. Next to him is Professor Wine Mutuma, the Vice Chair of the Institute of Certified Secretaries, and then finally Killian Nyambu of the Director of Public Outreach and Engagement at NCIC. Gentlemen, thank you for making time for us. Of course, the conversation does not stop there. We're keeping an eye on the developments at Britam Towers, where the NCIC has summoned the Homa Bay Town Member of Parliament, that is Peter Kaluma, who is expected at Britam Towers to, of course, answer to some of the charges that have been leveled against them. We'll be updating you as and when we get more details. To more news now. Parents in Kwale County have been urged to fulfill their parental responsibilities rather than abandoning their children, a practice that contributes significantly to the violation of the children's right. The call was made during a public dialogue by community stakeholders at Kombani in Matuga, organized by the Zamara Foundation, which emphasized the need for collaboration among parents, teachers and village elders to protect children from moral degradation.
Waelewa vijana wao kwanza, hiyo ni moja. Pili, wakishaelewa vijana wao, waweze kuwaleta karibu vijana wao, waweze kuishi nao ama kuweze kuwapatia mambo vile anaenda.
Jamii ipate mafunzo kwamba sheria zipo na ni sheria gani na hukumu yake ni gani. Itakuwa bora zaidi, kwa sababu makosa yanafanyika bila kujua. Wakati mtoto anashikwa, mzazi anakuja juu anasema mbona mmemshika, mbona hamkumwachilia hivi, kwa kumaanisha hajajua kwamba sheria ipo na sheria inachukua mkondo wake.
Alafu pia hawa wazazi kule nyumbani wawe na ile ukaribu na watoto wao, wawasikize watoto, wakuwe na vikao na watoto, usikuwe na ile gap ya mzazi na mtoto.
And in other news, around 100 youth from Vita in Mombasa County have begun a 3-week training program on emergency response and disaster management. The training, which is an initiative of the area Member of Parliament Mohamed Sud Mashele, is being implemented in partnership with the Kenya Red Cross Society and the Mombasa County Fire Department. The youths drawn from all 5 wards in the constituency are undergoing specialized training in the first aid, fire safety, lifeguard skills and disaster management.
Na changamoto nyingi na nimeona badala ya kuidentify vijana na kuambia response team kungojea, lazima mwanzo wapate masomo.
Ningeomba wazazi tuangalie watoto wetu, tukae chini na watoto wetu, tuongee, tuhakikishe kwamba tunapoenda mbele tunaweka amani. Iko watu watatumia vijana kwa njia ambaye si mzuri, ile inaitwa gunism. Unajua maneno ya guns? Hiyo hatutapenda.
Ramat Empowerment Organization has urged communities in Samburu County to embrace alternative rites of passage for girls as part of efforts to end female genital mutilation, that is FGM, and protect the girl child. Led by Josephine Ramat, the organization has equipped girls with life skills as an alternative transition from childhood to adulthood. It has also educated families and community elders on the harmful effects of FGM and the importance of protecting girls. The initiative has so far seen 96 girls graduate from the program.
And today we are celebrating our third alternative. In this area, they have accepted alternative of rite of passage, and that's why they are showing up in numbers. They are meeting our targets. So I want to explain, alternative rite of passage is not abandoning culture. It's just, we are just removing the harmful part and making sure that culture meets its original goal of protecting, giving dignity to the girls and not harming the girls.
Tumekuwa tukifunza wasichana madhara ya ukeketaji. Kama kuna ugonjwa inaitwa fistula, mtoto anapotairiwa, kuna hiyo ugonjwa ya fistula mtoto anaweza pata na inaleta madhara katika mwili yake, na pia inaweza mfanya ile tunaita scar kwa mwili yake, na ni ngumu sana hiyo scar kuondoka katika mwili wake. Na kuna pia ile bleeding kutoka kwa damu ambapo inaweza sababisha kifo.
411 Kapchure residents in Chemelil and Chemase areas at Tinderet constituency, Nandi County, have received land title deeds to settle long-standing property disputes. The initiative by the Ministry of Lands aims to secure land tenure, reduce local conflicts and empower families to invest in their future. Speaking at Tambul Primary School during the handover of the documents, the Principal Secretary of the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning, Nixon Korir, says that the government has made efforts to ensure that all squatters in a Tinderet area receive title deeds. Korir said the ministry will continue to address land ownership challenges by providing documents to deserving residents.
Tangu niingie bunge Nixon, my sub-county, half of it was squatters. The remaining 9 farms ambayo tuko naye hapa, kwa heshima yako na kwa heshima ya serikali yetu, tumalize once and for all.
Tuhakikishe kila mtu ako na title. Unajua kama una title ya shamba, wewe ni squatter. Si ni kweli? Na sisi hatutaki masquatter, tunataka mtu ajisimamie mwenyewe.
We are following to ensure we get justice. So hii mambo ya Kimwani, I'm happy. Zile titles zimepotea, there is a process na chief registrar na mbunge ame-explain hapa, so that we can go to the...
Leo tumelete title zenu ya hapa. Na vile mheshimiwa amesema, zile mashamba zingine 9 ambazo chairman ameongelea kuhusu hapa, tutahakikisha kwa hizo mashamba title zake tutazipata kabla mwisho wa mwaka huu.
Now here's the latest in the world of business. Family Bank has reported 3.7 billion shillings in net profit for the first 6 months of this year, representing a 41.7% increase that was driven by interest income growth. Net interest income rose 41% to 9.79 billion shillings, while loan loss provision increased to 50% of 998 million shillings.
Having listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange in June 2026, Family Bank's first half performance was highlighted by a 10.1% in net loans and advances to 101.1 billion shillings. From this, the lender made 9.79 billion shillings in net interest income, representing a 40.7% increase that was mainly driven by lower total expenses and interest advances as well as government securities.
Out of the total asset of around 238 billion, 89% of that money is invested in interest earning asset. Our mantra is we don't hold any idle cash within our banking system.
However, total non-interest income dipped 14.2% to 2.3 billion, mainly on account of lower income.
We are running with a very robust enterprise risk management, reviewing our policies, reviewing our underwriting standards, so that we make sure that every risk is mitigated.
Total operating expenses rose 10.7% to 7.4 billion shillings, mainly on account of higher loan loss provisions that jumped 50.4% to 998.25 million shillings. This is after gross non-performing loans jumped 19.2% to 18.14 billion shillings.
Most of the facilities that have pushed that number up are not many. They are just a few isolated facilities, and they relate to old vintage running in the periods before COVID, and largely a number of our customers who were affected during COVID, and they have not managed to come out of that situation.
The increased lending helped push up total assets by 23.9% to 238.94 billion shillings, while customer deposits rose at 20.3% to 180.23 billion shillings.
While we appreciate the share price, and we are even more interested in growing and the resilience of the business.
Regina Manyara reporting for KBC Channel 1.
Still with the banks, Absa Bank Kenya has posted 10.5 billion shillings in first half net profit, representing a 10% dip on account of lower net interest income and higher operating expenses. Despite reduced profits, the lender has recommended an interim dividend payout of 50 cents per share, up from 20 cents per share that was paid out during a similar period last year.
Absa Kenya has increased its interim dividend payout for 2026 by 150% to 50 cents per share after maintaining the 20 cents per share payout for 4 consecutive years. The increased dividend payout is despite lower first half net profit that dipped 10% to 10.5 billion shillings.
The holders, both in terms of capital appreciation of their investments, we've seen that over 30%, and then of course the dividend that we've declared today, the interim dividend, which is 150% up compared to the previous year.
This was after net interest income reduced 5.4% to 21.1 billion shillings, while total operating expenses increased 3.5% to 15.2 billion shillings.
Lending book, if you look at the yields on lending, has come down by 150 basis points, and we've been able to pass that benefit to our customers. By passing the benefit to the customers is more affordable. We've seen 8% growth in our loans and advances, but then the impact has come to our financials.
Loans and advances to customers increased 8.2% to 329.9 billion shillings, which helped push up total assets by 5% to 558.1 billion shillings. Benson Rioba reporting for Lunchtime News.
Now, farmers in Bomet East are being encouraged to venture into coffee farming as an alternative cash crop and a source of income. Commodities Fund Officer Moses Maritim says Bomet is an emerging high-potential coffee growing area, with farmers using the cash crop to improve their livelihoods.
Coffee is one of Kenya's cash crops, grown in 33 counties and supporting about 1.5 million households directly. About 70% of the country's coffee is produced by smallholder farmers through cooperative societies. With coffee production expanding into new areas, Bomet is now being identified as an emerging high-potential growing region.
Ile variety ambayo tunaimiza wakulima wa kahawa kupanda ni variety ambayo inaitwa Patian, ambayo ina uwezo wa kutoa kilo nyingi zaidi, na pia iko na quality ile ambayo inaweza kupea wakulima bei ile iliyo bora.
Commodities Fund Officer Moses Maritim says the fund will support farmers and cooperatives to establish coffee nurseries, plant coffee and access farm inputs.
Tunajaribu kuwaelezea wakulima wakuse kahawa kwa wingi, na huwa tunasaidia kwa njia namna mbalimbali. Riba ya fedha zetu ni 5% mpaka 7.5, na tunasaidia wakulima kwa mambo ya pulping machine na mambo ya mbolea.
At the same time, cooperatives within the area have been urged to meet the fund's requirements in order to access financing.
Tunahimiza cooperative societies wapate documents yenye inastahili ili wapate nafasi kunufaika kwa pesa ambayo tunapatiana tukiwa Commodities Fund.
The officials made the remarks during a farmers sensitization meeting at Kichutmoi Coffee Society in Bomet East. Ndotamo Kami for Lunchtime News.
Declining soil fertility and soil acidity is affecting production of sugar in the rich sugar belt of Busia County. This has been caused by continuous use of acidic chemical fertilizers, preventing crops from absorbing nutrients properly in the region. To address this, farmers in the county are turning to filter mud fertilizer, a byproduct of sugarcane processing, to restore degraded soils and improve cane production. Ngendo has the details.
The nutrient-rich material produced from sugarcane waste is being applied to farms after years of continuous cultivation depleted soil fertility in Busia County. The filter mud contains essential nutrients that can improve soil health and remain effective for years, with more farmers now adopting it to rehabilitate degraded land.
Kwanza iko na calcium, iko na magnesium, iko na nitrogen na iko na phosphates, pamoja na potassium ambazo zinahitajika sana kwa mimea ya aina mbalimbali, sio miwa peke yake, mimea aina mbalimbali ili kufanya vizuri.
Mapato yameongezeka, na patanga minimum of between 30 and 35 tons per acre, na hata mimi hukata mara 5-6.
But while farmers in Busia seek ways to improve production, their counterparts in Migori are facing a financial crisis threatening the future of South Nyanza Sugar Company. Farmers' representatives say the company risks losing its nuclear estate of an outstanding loan of more than 862 million shillings owed to Cooperative Bank of Kenya.
The bank is now very ready and has given a notice of 40 days to sell nuclear estate because of a loan that was extended to them, that they extended to Sony Sugar some times back. And this is not the first time the notice is coming out.
And all these loans were supposed to be settled before the lease took place. It is very unfortunate that we are finding it now that the government never took that issue very seriously.
They're now calling on the national government to intervene and settle the debt. Trevor Ngendo for Lunchtime News.
Ride-hailing firm Yego plans to grow its market share by adding at least 270,000 electric bikes on the platform as it seeks to expand the service across Kenya. Yego Chief Executive Officer, that is Singh, says the firm has kicked off metered motorcycle ride services in Nairobi with 4,000 electric bikes designed to bring fair, transparent fares and a more convenient riding experience.
The boda market in Kenya is huge. There are an estimated 2.7 million bodas that are operating in the country. And if you look at it, there's only a small proportion of them that have come under digital taxis, as they call themselves, or digital bodas. If you look at a figure of 2.7 million, I would say 99.99% of the rides that are happening today in Kenya are being flagged down like this or by somebody going up to the stage and negotiating. This creates a lot of different challenges because if you have so many bodas whose income is not being recognized, then that basically creates a problem for them because now they don't have a credit scoring, they don't have access to finance, and for them, they are actually not or considered part of the.
Here's the latest in the world of sports. Vihiga Cranes secured the boys' title after edging Busia's Musokoto Secondary School 1-0 in a closely contested final at the Masinde Muliro Stadium in Kandunyi, Bungoma County. Tony Omondi scored the decisive goal in the 61st minute, heading home Luke Ramsey's well-delivered corner to hand the Vihiga side the regional crown. In the girls' final, Lugari Progressive, also known as the Archbishop Njenga Girls, defeated Chakol Girls of Busia 4-3 on penalties after the match ended goalless in a regulation time. The two champions each pocketed 250,000 shillings and have also secured their places in the Nationals finalists, where they will represent the Western region. Vihiga Cranes coach Francis Mohambe says the team will now shift its focus to the national stage as its target the overall title. The Chapa Dimba tournament continues to provide a platform for young footballers across the country to showcase their talent and pursue opportunities in the sports.
Haijakuwa rahisi na tunashukuru Mwenyezi Mungu, nashukuru wasichana kwa ile bidii ambayo wameweka. Haijawa rahisi. The final was a real final. Na ingeenda either side. Hao Chakol angechukua ama sisi tungechukua. Lakini kwa uwezo wa Mwenyezi Mungu tunashukuru sababu tumekuwa washindi.
Communication yetu imekuwa juu, teamwork, hard work yetu imekuwa juu. Tunajituma wote kwa uwanja, tunakorektiana kama mtu amefanya makosa.
And this evening, before I go, I need to tell you, need to tune in to KBC Channel 1. We'll be of course airing that particular conversation, the Health Summit 2026, where President William Ruto will be in attendance. That concludes our bulletin. Do join us in our subsequent bulletins. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim, the sign language interpreter. The bottom end of the screen is Caroline Joroge. Good afternoon.
Skiza, Mandy amenituma ni bring some sense into that head of yours.
Tupatane kotini.
Ameninyonga karibu aniue.
Halo ofisa. Naomba mfanye patrol area hii. Wacha nitajaribu kumtafuta Mandy nimpigie simu.
Umeogopa kurogwa?
Siku ngapi? 2. Shelo kwa kuja hapa kunichota.
Hii shamba la kanisa liko kwa jina lako binafsi.
Ndugu Muli hapa. Hata alikuwa amepitia.
Mnazungumzia shamba yangu na huyu kwa nini?
Why?
By the way, unajua si vigumu pia kupotea.
Mimi labda unipigie risasi Muli.
Unadhani hiyo ni huyu?
Alishaonja pesa hizi. Sawa, kuna pesa tamu kushinda hiyo. Pia mimi ulinirecord.
Kwani unaonaje?
Kama hii ndio tabia, sasa nani atakutrust na information?
Unajua wewe na Muli ni kitu kimoja.
Are you ready?
Yeah, more than ready.
Ujajiingiza Yasin. We always replace those who have left us.
Hivyo ndo unafanyaga rafiki zako?
Sometimes you have to sacrifice a servant in order to save the queen.
Cheki. Dave, acha kuniongelesha kizungu mingi, sawa?
Jibu swali yangu, Mark.
Unataka nini hapa?
Gentlemen, Sam has left us.
Marvin, hiyo hapana. Nimekataa.
Yasin, sit down. I'm so sorry we got off on the wrong foot. Marvin, I like this guy. I like this guy.
National Assembly chambers. The time allocated for the sitting is 2:30. So in a short while, we should be seeing the procession of the Speaker making its way into the House. And also, as we wait for that, also members of the National Assembly should be making their way into the chamber, of course, to get ready for the transaction or the transacting of the business that has been lined up for consideration this afternoon. And as we wait for that, we shall take a glimpse at some of the priority business that once the House commences this plenary sitting this afternoon.